Hey, everybody. Let's see here. I'm going to add my boys. Hey, guys.
There we are. Would you look
We
at that?
are. We are here.
You're
It's so exciting.
here.
Hi, boys.
Hello.
This is amazing. Do you know how excited I am for this? I know you guys do because we've been talking about it. And
I have no.
what did you say?
I have no idea. I had no idea how excited you were.
Oh, shut up. Okay.
Being in.
So I'm just going to start by reading a quote of something that really makes me think of you two and everything that we've experienced, accomplished, dealt with in the last few years. And then what I'd like for y'all to do is you're going to think this is really funny, but I couldn't think of another way to ask this question, so I just want you to be prepared. So I want you to introduce yourselves as you would if you were on a first date. Okay. Like, think about how you would communicate about yourself. Like, how would you introduce yourself if you were on a first date? Okay. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Sure.
Okay. So here's the quote. I put it on my Facebook today, actually. Um, Maturity isn't the absence of hard stuff. Maturity is the evidence that a person allowed the hard stuff to work for them rather than against them.
Okay.
And honestly, that is how I view the two of you in my life. You have been such supportive rocks in the last few years of my life with all of the stuff that I've discovered and been through. You have wanted to know, you have wanted to understand, you have leaned into the hard, and I couldn't be more proud. I mean, I'll get emotional and I don't want to. I don't want my mascara to,
Hmm?
But I couldn't be more proud to be your mom. And the fact that you even want to be here in this moment, well, maybe want is not the right word, but that you are willing. Maybe I'm wrong, but willing to support me. And honestly, Sutton, I am loving that I can see the Italian flag right now behind you. It is making me so unbelievably happy. And we're going to actually talk about that. Cole has that same flag behind him where he lives in Denver. But right now we're in the exact same house, just in different parts of it. So anyway, could you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, starting with the oldest first, as if you were on a first date? How would you say, here, this is me, this is who I am? How would you describe
Mm.
yourself?
Um, my
Well,
name's Cole. Um, geez, I don't know, man.
he's never been on a date, so he doesn't know
Oh
what he's doing.
my gosh, that is so not true.
Get
You are
wrecked.
so
No, I
bad.
have. I definitely have. But West Coast kid, um, and proud Italian, and uh, um, yeah, I think those are the two biggest things. Like, um, pride of the West Coast, pride of Italy, and love to cook. Um, love sports. So CU's about to play right now. Go CU.
Go Buffs.
So yeah,
Go
let's go Bucks.
Buffs. Awesome. Okay, what about some qualities about you, Bubs? Absolute family reunion. You are totally right, Steph.
Uh, um, qualities. I'm very calm,
Totally true. Can
very
can attest.
very quiet. I'm a good listener. Um, I have, I would say, wisdom beyond my years. Um, It used to pain me to say all of this, but I've learned to boast in the gifts that God has given me. So,
I love that.
um, yeah, I would say those are probably my best qualities for
Okay,
sure.
Bubs, can you show us your face?
Sorry. Sorry.
You're so funny. Thank you. I agree with all of those qualities, every single one of them.
The truth. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Aw, look at Ipo. Your sister is saying she said that's true. Cole is amazing.
All right.
Ooh, Grandma Mitzi just joined. Yay!
Grandma.
We love Grandma
Stop.
Mitzi.
There it
Um,
is.
there it is. Okay, Sutton. How would you describe yourself to a first date?
That's weird. Never
Well, think
had
that you're
to do
telling
that.
Haley then,
Well, she's
the
here.
girl you're actually
Yeah,
dating,
no, I know.
and
But I
who is
just
watching
no,
right
I know.
now.
She already knows a lot of this, so it's funny. Uh, Hi, I'm Sutton Brumley. Uh, almost, to do something that my dad would do, daughter of two great parents when I was a little girl, as he would do. Uh, but no, son of Matthew and Julie,
Mhm.
um, brother to that guy. I am a lot more tame than I used to be. I have calmed down a ton. I used to be a nut job. Uh, Definitely have calmed down, learning more about that, which is funny.
Mhm.
Being an Italian, being very outgoing, and calming down more in my older years because I've only lived 21 years. But yeah, I'd say I'm uh, a nerd about many things. I have very unique likes. My brother calls me Odin because I'm just a nerd for knowledge and I like learning things. And I think, as he said, it's very similar. I used to not like talking about these things because of my pride. But I have learned to, as he said, boast, but not in like again, prideful way, but just to be content and thankful for the things that God has given me. Um, and I think, especially going off of what he said, it makes me think of 1 Corinthians 12, where it talks about the gifts that everyone has been given from the same Spirit. Definitely been given the gift of wisdom, as he said, and I feel like I've definitely been given the gift of knowledge. Um, so yeah, I think that's just a little bit about who I am. Traits, I guess, is I'm a very critical thinker, and not like I'm very good at critically thinking, but I think I think in a very critical way, um, and I'm very logical, but I'm also a very emotional individual. So that's a little bit about me.
Ipo's like, preach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You guys, one of the things I love about you is your self awareness. You know who you are and you know whose you are. And I think that's really important. I love that. So, okay, I'm just going to dive right on in. Why did we title this Half Adopted?
Well, that's a full Brent's answer.
Yeah, we're going to definitely let Cole answer that. You coined that, Cole. Do you remember what led you to come up with that phrase, half adopted?
Um, it was like a couple years ago when, or yeah, it was a couple years ago when wasn't it when Roe v. Wade was overturned?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was. I
And
think
then
that was the crucial point.
it like hit me harder than I like thought it would, and I had no idea why. And I realized that it was because my mom is adopted, and I would not have existed um, if it weren't for that. And so it kind of felt as though I was like adopted as well, um, or half adopted. So that's kind of where it all came from, is the emotional connection, like I guess through my mom, um, with that specific event.
Do you
So,
want to explain why that impacted you so much? Because I don't think people listening, a lot of people do know my story because I've talked about this, but I want to hear it from your mouth. Like, why did that impact you so much?
well, yeah, for those that don't know, you were attempted to be aborted twice. And so,
And let me just say this, within months of Roe v. Wade actually passing for the first time.
yeah.
Within
I
the
was
year.
And
born in
so,
73 and I was attempted to be aborted literally 2 months later.
yeah.
2 times.
And so when that happened in like 2022 or whatever, it I guess that my feeling was like that I was attempted to be aborted twice by
Mm-hmm.
proxy of being your son.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it kind of meant more to me than I thought it would, basically.
Not like you would also ever do anything like that. Jules.
Oh, of course not. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Hey, John Bies.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Um, so Sutton, when you hear
Hmm.
that, what goes through your mind? Like when you think about what he just said, and one of the other questions I was going to ask was, what were the most pivotal moments in the last few years when you recognize this half adoptedness show up in your life? So clearly he just mentioned one, and I know that was one for you. So what was that like for you?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit last night. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very similar in a sense of, uh, I mean, I'm just gonna go off of what we talked about last night. Of we had just that whole talk of there's a lot of things that would prohibit us from being on this planet as humans, and I think for us there's a lot more than normal, and that just helped me recognize like God really wanted us here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think especially with your story, it's just kind of for me, I think the biggest aha moment with the half adopted mindset was uh, when Roe v. Wade was overturned,
Mm-hmm.
which it's not like I don't care. I'm not getting it political, but just to point out, you were, if we look at the timeline, you were conceived around the time that Roe v. Wade was passed, and then you were attempted to be aborted like a couple months later, because that law came into action and it became a thing, and it gave your mom the ability to abort you twice, but thankfully she wasn't able to because of her stupid life choices. um, and I think after, like, what really changed it for me and helped me recognize, like, wow, I actually, this kind of does affect me, um, was when I was driving back on a bus ride from Philly, and I saw someone post on their story a picture of a pregnant woman with "not a human" written on her
Mm-hmm.
stomach, and like sobbed the whole way back because I recognized people think that not just about that child, but about my mom, which then by proxy they think that about me, because if my mom's not here, I'm not here. And not to be like, it's not a selfish, I don't want it to come across like selfishly. I just wanted to, like, that was my realization. And it was more so, I think what hit me the most is like, my mom has felt this her whole life, and now I'm just beginning to understand what she's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, yeah. And then since then, it's just been a bunch of realizations of like, we both have been getting used to our Italian family, learning more about what that is, learning more about who we are. And I think just learning through like a lot of these people, a lot of people just in general on earth know where they come from and know their history. And growing up, I think basically my whole life, majority of my entire life, not knowing where half of me comes from,
Mm-hmm.
and like I think it's the same. It's why it's half adopted. You've grown up your whole life not knowing where your entirety came from,
Mm-hmm.
where you came from at all. We grew up only knowing half of us, and I think that that can cause a inside division of
Yep.
like, I don't know who I am, but I know who I am slightly, and I think that that's why I think in a in a way, for me at least, and Colburn, you can second. I think for me, it's really helped me hone in on God, because that has helped me. God has been the 100%. Like I can go to that, and that's where I'm complete, and that's where I am found. There is no half.
Mm.
And that's probably why recently, or just in the past couple of years, it's been so like I've relied so heavily on Him, because that's the one thing that stayed constant. Clearly, that's the whole point. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have anything to add to that, Cole?
No, nailed it.
You nailed it. Yeah, you both nailed it. So the Creative April just said, I definitely have felt that way too, being the child of an adoptee, and so grateful for who I am in Christ. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad that that was validated in what we just shared. I think as you were talking, I got really emotional because I remember that time we were all at camp. I remember exactly when it happened, and I remember passing by you and you telling me that it happened. And I had this weird feeling inside of me, and I didn't understand it. And then as I walked up the hill to go back to do my job, which was to cook lunch for 500 people, I couldn't stop crying, and I couldn't even get words out. I was sobbing uncontrollably, and I didn't know how to understand what was happening, because first of all, what I think what went through my head was well, she probably would have figured out how to attempt to abort me either way, but just that feeling of this has really impacted my entire life, and I didn't know it until now. Like really know it. Like I think it was the first time I felt it in my body, if that makes sense. Like it was just this feeling of heaviness. And then I remember being in the kitchen working that day, and I said to one of the people that worked in the kitchen with me, I said, I feel like I've literally lost somebody. I feel this heavy like vice grip on my chest. And then you both told me later, I had no idea you were experiencing anything. And then you both told me later you felt the same. And that, I don't know if you guys remember, I was like, why? Like it didn't even dawn on me. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And how disconnected I could be from the fact that this could have a generational impact. I just had no idea. It just shows so much how our trauma that we experience keeps us protected until we're able to actually deal with it.
Mhm.
And so anyway, really, really good points. Thank you so much for being willing to share that. I know there have been other times. I can think of two specifically that were,
Nice.
I guess we're celebrating, that were big for me to witness. One, you weren't in this one, Sutton, because you were actually up talking to Haley in Italy, which I think is adorable. But it was when we
Hello.
were, it was when we were in Italy, and Cole and I were talking to my mom and to Uncle Dave. And Cole was getting emotional, and I want to let him do this part if he can. It's hard to put words to, but as I watched him struggle, it made me go,
I
oh my gosh,
remember
he gets it. And my uncle was like, I don't understand why you're so emotional. Do you remember that, Cole? And he
Yeah.
asked you to explain it, and then you explained it. And my mom goes, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So can you explain that so that people can understand what it felt like, first of all, to be in Italy, a place that we didn't even know was a part of our heritage until 3.5 years ago? Found out I was 50% Italian, had 100% Italian birth father. Unreal, hence the reason why the Italian flag is behind Sutton. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was like I've never I tell a lot of people whenever I go on trips to whether it be different states or the different countries that I've been to, Italy's the only one where I like every time I've traveled to different countries, it's always been like this place is cool, but I do like I'm ready to go home, or
Mm.
I prefer home. wherever that may be, whether it's Denver or whether it was here in Northern Virginia. Um, Italy's the only place where I'm like, I could go back a billion times and stay for as long as I want and feel like I belong there.
Mm.
And I still have a lot of work to do where that's concerned. So, I got to learn a little more of the language and that kind of thing. And so I think being there for the first time and that kind of connection with the land and just kind of, I don't know, it brought up something in me, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. I think it was like, I think Sutton seemed a bit off
He,
when
he
we were
did.
there,
That
and
is what it was.
they
Yeah,
were
you're
like,
right.
what's going on with this guy? And I think there's a bunch of things, but one of the things I thought it might have been was being there for the first time too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And me and him process things differently. But just to kind of connect with your homeland for the first time, there's an emotional connection to it, and I think that was his reaction. Part of it was being affected by that. So, and yeah, it brought up, it made me emotional talking about it just because I related to it and I just was dealing with it differently. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, and I think that's why it was hard for
Uncle
um,
Dave.
Uncle Dave to kind of understand because he just couldn't relate to it. And I don't blame him,
Right.
because he didn't grow up with that longing to want to know the other side of himself like I did. Um,
But the
so
thing is, Cole, you didn't know you wanted to know it, did you?
uh, I'd always wanted to know.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had
Same.
always wondered. I just didn't know how to find out until you did 23andMe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Seth. I know you want to say something to this. Thank you, Cole, for sharing that.
No, I don't. I just agree. I think I did also. I think, like, I subconsciously knew my whole life more than anything. Of like, I just didn't do anything about it because also the majority of my life I was a child. But I think, yeah, I just was like, I really, um, I do want to know who I am, but I think the biggest thing for me was that what trumped that, I think, for me, of like trying to figure out what me wanting to know was wanting to know what you were
Mhm.
more over anything. It was, I mean, we know who Father is. He's 99% British. So
Right.
we know that. But
Mhm.
it's if we find where you're from and we find who you are genetically and all of that, then I will know. But it's not like, it's more so just I wanted you to know because you had no idea. And then we had the other side of the coin, which I think was weird growing up to an extent of like, you have this one side where I would like see my friends and they would be like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with my mom's family and I'm going to go hang out with my dad's
Mhm.
family. And I'm like, I only have one grandfather. I only have one set of like grandparents. And then I have Grandma Rass, of course, who's awesome. But
Mhm.
I'm like, I only have this. Um, and seeing that was just weird, I think. Um, so like just for you as well, I think it was wanting to know where you came from so that we could have a better understanding about just where we all stand as a family, and as
Mm.
individuals. So
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
and being
really
in Italy
interesting.
was wild.
Yeah, it definitely was wild. I have to agree with you. And I think to piggyback on that, it was for me watching you guys, like I had already been there for a couple of weeks. And so I had actually felt a lot and experienced a lot. And just like, honestly, the way I described it when I would pray when I was there was, in the Bema podcast, Marty talks about Ruach,
Yeah.
like the spirit, the breath of
Yeah.
God, that's what I felt when I was there.
Yeah.
like just this warmth. I couldn't even describe it.
Yeah, it
That was
was
the
definitely
only,
warm.
yeah. Yeah. We were there in August, so it was like 100 degrees. But
Awful.
I think
Hmm.
the amazing thing for me was there was just this almost hug feeling
Mm.
that while I was there. And then being able to watch you guys, like when we went to Florence together. And so to me, the next pivotal moment was hey everybody who joined. I'm trying to say hi y'all. It's so good to have you here. Really, really grateful. And the biggest one was when we walked down that main drag in Florence and you guys saw the Duomo. And I actually posted it
Yeah.
on Insta, and your faces were like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like you got the best gift you'd ever gotten, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just your mouths dropped. You were like, what? And then the crazy thing too, this is one of the things, I mean, Sutton, I know you don't fully like me talking about this, but it's definitely out there in the social media verse about your fear of heights. And the Duomo, if y'all
I
don't
don't
know,
care. It's fine.
okay, well, good. But you're climbing up this structure that was built in the 1100s, I believe, is when it was started. I'm probably wrong, and if you guys want to try and tell me that I'm wrong, I'm totally
I'll
fine
go
with
to
that.
Google.
I'm sure you will. But as we're climbing it, Cole and I are behind him. That was weird. I don't know why it just did that. But we were
Yeah.
behind him, and there was a French woman in front of him who I don't think spoke much English, right? Sut?
Yeah.
You probably.
Began in 1296 and finished in
Okay.
1368. So you were close.
So I was close. But
It's close.
this we went into the dome, and that's one of the things that you can do, but it's very, very high. And you're climbing up stuff that was built a long time ago, and it doesn't feel that sturdy, and it's a little crazy, especially when you look at it and they're like redoing the structure of it. Like when we got there, there was like scaffolding around it. So Cole and I are behind him, and Sutton, there's this picture of him. Cole and I like look down, and he has his hand against the glass like this, and he's hand on his heart, and he's like flipping out. And he goes, I don't know if I can do this. And she's right next to him. And I don't remember what she said to you. I think she
No,
said
we
something like,
were specifically what happened is we were climbing we were climbing the dome part and it started curving and the stairway was like this big.
yes, I remember.
And we got to a spot where we're climbing and there's a window behind and she's in
Mm,
front of me and she was being great the whole time. And it was this whole
yeah.
family and they were laughing at me and I was welcoming it because I was being a goober and terrified out of my mind.
Yeah.
We're climbing and she goes to look out the window and I'm like, oh, it's that. She goes, no, 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 no. Look at me. Look at me. No, no, no,
Yeah, she could tell, bro.
She
no. Yeah.
totally
Um,
knew. I mean, it was, but I think the biggest thing my respect for you grew immensely that day. You you decided, this is my culture, this is my heritage, I want to experience this. And right before that, we had climbed another thing at the Palazzo Vecchio,
yeah.
and you were like, why did we do two of these in one day? It didn't even dawn on me. Anyway, but you were a trooper. And when we got to the top, there's that picture that you took a selfie of us that I will cherish for the rest of my life. You looked like you had achieved something. I don't even know how to you were elated. And you could describe it better. But I felt in that moment, I started crying. I don't know if you guys remember, I started crying. And I felt like, as I'm looking out on Florence, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my throat. Maybe because it's hard to speak these things out loud. As I'm looking out, of the panoramic view of Florence, all I felt like I closed my eyes and took many deep breaths and felt roots going down through my feet into Italy. I just felt this sense of, this is where I'm from. And I've never
Yeah.
felt this before,
Yeah.
ever. It was just such a overwhelming, again, that ruach feeling was so real. and so like powerful. So I'll shut up now and I want to hear like your thoughts and feelings on that.
On just that experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
yeah,
that to me was another indicator of the half adoptedness. Like
yeah,
watching you experience
yeah.
that.
I think, well, I was terrified. It was 500 plus feet up on a structure that was built 1,000 years ago, basically. So 700 years ago or whatever. Um, yeah, terrifying. Um, but I think what I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. Like it really is hard to put words to.
Mm-hmm.
Because never experienced anything like that before in my entire life. Um, but it's kind of like in those cringy 80 movies where they're like, "We're home now," or they're like, "We found like they've found their place." That's the that's just kind of the only way I could really describe it in a sense of like when I got up, I just was like, yeah, yes, I'm terrified of tall things and being up high. Um, but looking out, I'm like, this is, I feel at peace, even though I'm freaking out. And it actually, like, this is, I felt like grounded in a sense of even, it's just the rule. I don't know how to describe it. It's so weird, but it was a peace that
You're just
surpasses understanding.
describing it very well,
And
actually. Sutton.
the ruach that you say is there was that spirit
Mhm.
of like this is where I am from. This is like this is me. But it's the like I think also what helped a lot was just being there with you and Colburn and experiencing like this is where we are all from. This is us. This is who we are. Um, and especially being able to look out from the Duomo of like this is where our family comes from and this is where my lineage like started.
Mhm.
So it was really helpful and good.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
yeah.
Cole, what about you, bud? That was awesome. Thank you, Sutton.
Yeah, when I got to the top of that building, I didn't want to go down. We had to because they, had to let the next group of people come up, but
And I
I
was
didn't
terrified.
want to leave. It was obviously, it was funny watching you, Sud, because I know you obviously had a fear of heights going up, but it seemed like it kind of went away when you got to the top. Obviously, it probably didn't inside, but it seemed like it. You were afraid, but you kind of threw your fear to the side because of how cool it was
Mhm.
and how incredible it was. Like I loved all the pictures I took up there and the view of seeing all the mountains in the distance and then just the city and like the architecture there and how the way it's built and how old it is and everything. And I just it felt like I was where I was supposed to be. Um, and it was just the best. It was the
Yeah.
best.
It truly was. I wholeheartedly agree with you guys. But experiencing it with you was something, it'll be probably one of my favorite memories of all time. I don't think that will ever shift. That because it was the newness of all of us experiencing something similar at the same time and having a
Mhm.
similar like grounded, rooted, I'm from here, this is home. It was so settling.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I can't think of any other way to describe it. And yes, it's hard to put words to it, but I think we're doing a decent job. Um, so yeah, I guess thank you for sharing all of that. I think the next thing that comes to my mind, and this will be the last thing probably that we talk about for time's sake, because I know Sutton needs to get ready to go to work, but um, how would you describe how being half adopted has impacted your life? Like, I know you're both young. I mean, you're 21, Sutton, and you're almost 24, like literally in a few days, Cole. So you're young, but how would you describe that this has impacted your life?
It's a crazy question to end off of because it's a long-winded answer, I feel like. It's a
That's
great
okay.
question, but yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Colby, you want to go first?
I see what you did
Well, I
there.
mean, it's up to you. I can go and try and piece
Sure.
something together. But
No,
oldest,
I would say I finally feel complete. Um, like and content with who I am. Um, I don't have to look for that side of me anymore. Um, and I can kind of just, enjoy life and not have to look at other people's lives and be like, man, I want that, or I want,
Mm,
you know, I wish I had that, you know, cultural connection or, um, you anything like that. And so, um, yeah, just it feels really good, very like satisfying, and yeah, I guess that's the word that came to mind was complete. Like I feel complete.
mm.
Um,
You didn't know you needed that to feel complete, though, did you?
yeah. Uh, yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I had always been wanting it, but yeah, I didn't know that that's what it would take, I guess, for sure.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
think with you saying that, what it makes me think of is one of the 7 core issues that all adoptees deal with is identity.
Mm,
And what's interesting is that transfers to our children and we don't know it. I think we have been in a fog for such a long time, usually, that we don't realize how our lack of identity impacts our children's lack of identity.
mm,
And you guys are now making that clear that that is what happens and that there's part of you that doesn't feel settled. And that once you find that piece of you, there's this completion feeling. For me, the way I
yeah.
described it was it felt like my soul had all these fragmented pieces kind of floating around. And once I found it, they just went click right into
Mm,
place. And that's kind of what I hear you saying.
yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
For sure.
Thanks for sharing that, Cole. How about you, Seth?
um, yeah, I think, yeah, yeah, it's a very hard question. Um, I think kind of going off of and just piggybacking off of a lot of what has already been said is, as you mentioned, that fog. I think we got so comfortable living in a fog that we didn't even know it was there.
Mm-hmm.
To a point of where we were just like, yeah, this is normal. And I think we seeing other people's lives are like, oh wow, they have something that I don't. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's like. And then you get to it and you're like, oh wait a minute. Huh? And I think for me, I think it's honestly helped in a funny way or in a strange way. It's helped really solidify and strengthen my faith. Um, because I'm not searching for who part of me is anymore. And I feel like, as what Colburn said, is I'm complete, or I found my whole self on earth. And I think finding my whole self on earth has helped me understand my whole self in Christ. And that has majorly impacted the way that I just view faith of I don't have to seek anymore. And but I think, point of seeking you shall find, knocking the door shall be open to you, and all that stuff of I looked, we found, we have it. And now it's going to be a continuous thing with our faith. But I think for me, it has helped me understand my personal beliefs in religion more, in a sense of I I, I get it, I guess, in a sense of like when we become disciples, we are one in Christ, and we are all one. And now it's like I also feel that sense of oneness in my own self with my own background and history, and I have that familial completeness in a sense of now I know where I am, I know where I come from, I know who I am, and now I know whose I am even better. Um, so I would say, because the original question was how being half adopted impacted me.
Impacted you,
Um,
yes.
Originally, I don't think it had that much of an impact on me
Sure.
because it was normal and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to put words to it. It also just made sense because it was the way I was living. Um, but looking back at it and just also living now, like I wouldn't change anything. And also, I don't think it had a negative impact on me at all. I think it's only had positive side effects and outcomes in the sense of I know how to understand 4.5 million people on this planet, or in America at least.
In
I
America.
know how.
Yep, that's
Yeah, I
right.
know how to understand you better. And like for example, we were talking about when I was at the conference and saw that thing of like, yeah, when you're growing up, you always just want to be a baby again, be the center of attention. And then my mind was like, you've never felt that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to immediately recognize that,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think there's a lot of people on this earth that immediately would, because they don't get it. So I think it's just honestly broadened my spectrum of understanding,
Yeah.
and it's really cool. Sorry.
Yeah, and I would agree, but I think it makes us more compassionate,
Yep.
not only towards ourselves, right, but
Yep.
towards others who experience this stuff. Cole and I were talking last night about our roots, and he was saying to me how it was so good to go back to Colorado because that's where he was from. That's where he was born. And I did this thing where I was like, I don't like always bringing it back to this, but for adoptees, we don't have those.
Yeah.
Like, we aren't born into those. We are actually ripped away from those in my generation. We weren't allowed to have our culture, it was taken, and we lost that. And so it's interesting. I said to him, our search, and I think everybody's search, is to, but much more for the adoptee, is to go back to what their inherent worth was before
Mm-hmm.
they were taken. That is who we really are inside, and we have to find that infant baby self and nurture her or him and let them know that we've got them and that we will protect them. That's part of the work that we have to do. But it's important to acknowledge it first. Like, if we don't acknowledge it, that's why the fog, oh no, Cole's connection isn't great.
Sorry.
But that's why the fog, it's okay, Coley, is such a real thing. It can be really heavy. And so it's being able to kind of like get those glimpses when we're ready, that allows us to come out of it. And you guys, it sounds like, felt some of that too, partly because you were parented by me. So,
Yeah.
so, and I know, and we've talked about this, and I feel like you guys forgave me before I even had to say I was sorry, but for the ways that I didn't know how to nurture you when you were
And,
growing up, or even get on the floor and play with you. That scared me so much. I don't even, like, now looking back, I think the reason why is if I do that, if I connect with them in this way, it's really vulnerable and they'll leave me. But what? You were like babies. How? But that was literally how my psyche felt. There was this fear that if I gave more of myself, it would just be abandoned, rejected, left, because that's how my whole life was. Now, my adopted mom never left me. She has been constant and really believes that I have been a gift to her, and I am so grateful for that. I just think we have to acknowledge what we've lost, and I think you guys acknowledged it and now you've gained it, and what a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Also, we were 6 and 8 playing with Legos, and it was a Lego castle, so I don't think you would have really lost anything. You'd only been confused because we had a whole storyline, and I don't think you would have understood anything. So you're
Yeah. Real ones know.
good. Yeah. So you're fine.
well,
I've already told you over and over of you don't need to apologize. If I was an only child, or if one of us was an only child, maybe it would be more of a problem. But we were playing with Legos and playing on our PS2 and the Wii, we didn't know any different. So like, there's nothing.
I know
We
you
didn't know
didn't
anything
know
was
any
wrong.
different. Yeah.
So it's fine.
Well, and I think what it forged in the two of you, part of me has some sadness that I missed out on the play. That's what I'm
Yeah, that
saying.
makes sense.
Like I didn't know how to play. I truly didn't. I constantly I was a doer, right? You guys know that about me. And so I think
One.
yes, an Enneagram type 1. And so I think in the last few years, learning to just be and be still and be curious and not judge. And I just remember those feelings of even in Reston when you guys, I mean, you guys shared a room till Cole was, I think,
Yep.
17. But it was because you guys loved being together. And I think my inability to play with you forged a bond between the two of you that is still lasting today. So even though it was from trauma, it produced some good, I guess. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for your relationship. And even now, if I'm up in my room and I hear you guys laughing and having a blast when you're together, which is not very often anymore since you live in different states, it warms my heart and just makes me feel so grateful that I have boys that actually really like being friends. So it's pretty cool.
Easy.
Oh, thank you, Ipo. Ipo said they were amazing kids. Are you saying they're not amazing adults? I'm a little confused. Just kidding. They are amazing
Unbelievable. Yeah.
adults.
I mean, I wouldn't
Anyway, I
disagree
think
with.
well, I really appreciate you guys indulging me and taking this time. Because I think we're still uncovering what kind of generational impact this actually has.
Mhm.
It's definitely not something we have all the answers for. I think the solution, if you will, is to talk about it, is to acknowledge it, is
Mhm.
to put it out in the open and allow our voices to be heard. So and I think for me, one of the things I said to Cole yesterday, and even you, Sutton, was my passion is to increase awareness about a population, 4.5 million people, 7% of the population in the United States, that are overlooked in so many ways, aren't allowed in many states to have their original birth certificates, are only allowed usually a sheet of paper that says who they are and what their medical history is, and it's usually from before they were born, not after. That's, in my opinion, a human rights violation. That's not okay. And I want the awareness out there that it impacts the next generation too. If I hadn't found my birth mother or birth father and didn't know that there was heart disease, didn't know that there was colon cancer, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we could have had, we still in the future, not knowing these things, could have some real medical problems. And anytime somebody like us, me, goes into, well, we love you, Mitzi, we are so grateful. You guys have been, I don't know if you noticed, Sutton is wearing the Barber hat, so he's fully representing right now. So that is my birth side, my Italian birth side right there, is the Barber side, and we're very grateful for that side. But I don't remember. Oh, all I was going to say, this last thing is, for the longest time, anytime I would go into the doctor and it would ask me for my medical history, all I could put was, I'm adopted. I don't know.
Mm.
And it's such a vacant feeling not being able to write down that information. So, because I really don't know. I have no access to any of that. And so when I found my birth dad, to be able to call him and go, hey, so is there colon cancer? I just don't know. And to be able to actually write it down and know that I actually have that history and can pass it on to you is a big deal, because we lose that if we don't seek it out. So just important.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I love that does that.
Well, you guys, you rock. And thank you so many of you for being with us. I saw that Denise showed up. Denise from Maui,
Yeah.
our friend. Oh, look, Shaylee just joined. Good morning, Shay.
Sometime.
And I noticed that my friend and author, Emma Stevens, Linda Pivac joined. A lot of people have. And I think Josh joined, Cole, one of your roommates.
Sure did. Yeah.
And Charlie. So thank you so much. If I didn't call you out. I'm sorry. I noticed one of my newest followers, Sammy, got on here to listen. I'm so encouraged by that. Hi, Shay Shay. We love you. And you guys, this is just a new discovery. We've only just begun exploring this. And so, yeah, very grateful for the time to spend with you guys this weekend specifically together, and love you. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today, everybody. Any final things you guys want to say?
Fireworks. No.
No, good.
We're good.
We can do this. Here. Will it do it?
I think so. I don't know. Not in front of your face. I have no idea. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to get the heart to show up. That's what Haley does, and it shows up, but it's not showing up. Okay, anyway, I digress. Love you guys. We'll see you later. I will definitely get this uploaded to YouTube next week.